Hello and welcome to Magical Travel Adventure. I am Lauren, your host, and I am joined with fellow travel agent again, Meredith. Hi, Meredith.
Hello. Hello, Lauren. Thanks for having me back to talk about more Disney stuff.
Yes, and Meredith is here today to talk to us about what it's like to remote work while at Disney World. And we were actually there at the same time, and we have a little funny story to tell you guys eventually. But I will let Meredith reintroduce herself and tell us all about herself.
Yeah. Hello, world. I'm Meredith. I'm a fellow agent with Lauren at Carry on the Magic Vacations. I work a full-time job on top of being a travel agent with Lauren. And I have limited vacation days, just like everybody who works a full-time corporate job. But I'm very fortunate to be able to work remote. I'm in my house right now. This is my home office. Um, so yeah, that's me.
Very nice. Yes, and Meredith won't tell you, but she is an expert in Star Cruiser and Run Disney, so you always can reach out to her about both of those
Yes.
things.
Please do.
And
Yes, I love talking about Run Disney, running in general, and all things Star Wars. Definitely.
yes, and Meredith is a kindred spirit because she also gets up early and is already working. So she's my early morning person. It's so fun because I wake up at some ungodly hour, and so does Meredith. So
Yeah. I can always count on Lauren being awake at 5:30 or right around there as well. And I
oh
feel
yeah,
like if I have a question or something, she's always up as well.
oh yeah. I've already had half a day by then. So
Yeah.
all right, so let's talk about working remotely because you have been doing it for a while. I've only done it a little bit, but you're pretty good. You have a lot of good information for us. So why don't you tell us a little bit about working remotely and I don't know, whatever you want to tell us.
Yeah, definitely. So, like I mentioned, I definitely have the limited vacation days. So I take advantage of traveling on the weekends to specifically go to Disney more often than not, let's be honest. And so I am an annual pass holder, so that definitely helps me be able to work remote from Disney. I bring my laptop, I have a laptop stand that I travel with. And I can basically go to the parks for rope drop first thing in the morning, especially now with the parks being open 30 minutes early for resort guests. That kind of gives you the opportunity to ride 2 or 3 rides sometimes before you have to log in for work. And then I just normally it's catch a bus to go back to the resort, pull up my laptop, work my 8 hours and then close my laptop and go back to the parks and just have a fun time. And especially my last trip, I don't go in the summer. I am a northern girl. I don't know how people can go in the summer sometimes because it's brutal. But I went in June, kind of an unplanned rescheduled trip, and we didn't go to the parks during the day at all. We only went after work, and it was great because it wasn't too hot. And it really worked in our advantage that way. A little less crowded, still got to have a whole bunch of fun. The internet at the resorts that I've stayed at have been really pretty good. Typically, there will be two of us who are working from the resort, and um, we've both been on video calls at the same time. I can upload stuff. I do use a VPN. I think that's really important, especially when you're on a public network like Disney has. That's just going to keep your
You're
information
going to have to tell
here.
people what that is because some
Yeah,
people will know and some people aren't
yes,
in your tech
sorry.
world.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, sorry. A VPN is a virtual private network. It basically encrypts your information that you are sending, whether that's if you have your VPN turned on, it's essentially making sure that your information and your data that you're putting out through the internet is secure. So if you work remote, typically your company will have one on as a requirement for security purposes, already on your work laptop. And it's just very important to make sure that your information is secure, especially when you're using a public network, which is one that Disney uses. Your home network is significantly more should be significantly more secure than Disney's because limited people are on it. You have a password. Disney doesn't have a password on their Wi-Fi, that sort of thing. But yes, I use a VPN when I work remote at Disney, and that way I know I'm compliant with all of my work requirements, while still being able to be at Disney and go have a ton of fun when I'm done with work.
Yeah, and I think that's like an important thing that people don't always understand. They're like, oh, they have Wi-Fi and I could just use it. And you have to remember that when you're at home, it's not open to everyone. You have that password
Mhm.
and it's limited, and you have just a little more extra security there. But going into the public, like even if you're at the airport or if you go on the plane,
Mhm.
that's a public area, and public Wi-Fi. So that is like a really good tip because I
Yeah.
remember, like, I'm a teacher and they never gave us anything for that. And that was one of my big things. I'm like, so we're streaming kids' faces and
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah, it's those little things that when you're at home you don't really have to think about if you're not in that world, if you're not in the security world. But it's super easy, and you are only doing a good thing by protecting your information.
yes, definitely.
Mhm.
Okay, so let's talk about it because you and I were actually there in the summer at the same time. And
Yes.
I remember I was texted you and I was like, can you check out the Wi-Fi speed? Because my husband works remote all the time also. And I don't understand all the technology like you do, but at home we have it all set up here and we don't really worry about the internet and the speed and what you might need for it. But you have had pretty good luck so far with your service, right?
Yeah, I've been pleasantly surprised throughout all of I've I've worked remote from Disney a lot, and I've been shocked by the internet speeds that I've encountered. I know that's not necessarily your experience, um, but I stayed at Saratoga Springs, Old Key West, Shades of Green. I think those are the three that I've stayed at and worked remote, and I have had perfectly fine internet. But I know you were when I was at when I was at Saratoga Springs, I had like 70, like I was doing good, and that's when you messaged me and you're like,
Yeah.
I can't get anything done.
I couldn't. We were at Riverside, so Port Orleans Riverside, and I don't even think we had 5 megabytes where we were. And like I will say, we were close to one of the parking lot areas, and we were nowhere near the main building. So I mean that definitely could have had something to do with it. I didn't like walk around all of Riverside to check.
Pinging just to see.
Right. But I would
Yeah.
say like we were there for 2 days and I mean we could not both work at the same time. Like one person would own the Wi-Fi in the room and you'd work and it would be so slow. It would be so slow. I think I went to the main building in the food court, and that wasn't bad. It still wasn't fast though. And when we were at Pop Century, last time. I didn't do a lot of work, but I mean, I guess I did. I did a lot of work on my phone, and it did work okay. And my husband said he was fine, but he didn't try and do any video calls. So I think that might have we didn't get to try out video calls. Um, but yeah, I mean, it really depends. I'm wondering if DVC has better
That
Wi-Fi.
that might be it because we were staying at Saratoga is where we normally stay because my uncle has DVC points and lets me use them. And so that's where I typically will be staying. And I bet that's it, that they have a little bit better Wi-Fi.
Yeah, because that's the whole point of Disney Vacation Club is, it's your home away from home. So maybe that's one of the fun upgrades they have
Yeah.
there.
Huh. I'll have to investigate that and see next time. I'm going to be back in about a month at Saratoga Springs again, and I wonder if I can bounce around and see where if like the non-DVC rooms have better Wi-Fi.
Yeah.
I'm going to
Yeah.
I'm
And
gonna figure it out.
I'll be able to report back at Pop Century again in a few months too. So,
Yes.
which I think is kind of important because sometimes it can matter if you're staying in preferred or standard rooms, even
Mhm.
like if you're just closer or there isn't as much stuff around or I mean
Yeah.
Pop Century is not a good example because it's just it is what it is. It's
Yeah.
my son's absolutely favorite resort, so
Mhm.
we go for him.
I can definitely see that. I haven't stayed there before, but it's on my list to experience. That's for sure.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I told him that this is probably the last time that mommy's gonna stay at a value resort, but yes.
Yeah. Yeah. That's
Yeah.
fair.
And, do you have any tips to recommend to people about planning out how to maybe focus during the day and then play at night or even, like, what is your strategy when you go?
Yeah. So I definitely, it can be a bit of a challenge to stay focused. I think because I have been able to do it so much, it's helped. Going first thing in the morning, for rope drop definitely helps kind of work the Disney itch a little bit, to be able to say, okay, I did my favorite ride first, and then I know I'll be back in the afternoon. Um, and also making sure that I don't just stay in my room the entire day, the entire work day. I still make sure and like I'll go on an afternoon walk or I'll just like make sure I do step away from my computer. I know it can be challenging to just be like, okay, I'm just going to sit down. I'm going to work straight, so that I'll skip my lunch break so that I can just get to the park sooner. But then I get pretty tired and I can't enjoy the parks as much because I've just been staring at a screen all day. Um, and then my personal recommendation, I've done it both ways. I've stayed on property and I have stayed off property for when I'm going and I'm working remote because I want to maximize the amount of time that I do get to spend in the parks when I'm not working. I do stay on property. The advantage of the morning and the evening hours on the select dates just makes it completely worth it. Plus, then you're at Disney, so you still feel like you're kind of at the parks in a way. And I play background music as well, because then it also kind of blocks out the pool noises or the people walking around outside, and that kind of helps me focus a little bit as well.
Yeah, I'm wondering if you stayed at, like, the boardwalk or beach club, if that would be more distracting for you or less
That
distracting.
probably would. That would probably be more distracting because I would want because you're also like you're so close to Epcot, and
Right.
so I would want to go in and like walk the World Showcase or like go sit on the beach. Whereas Saratoga, it's very relaxing, but there's no like immediate distraction of oh the park is right there. Oh I could go walk the world showcase on my lunch and then end up spending 2 hours in the park.
Or like, oh, I'll just grab lunch in the park today.
Go get a quick bite to eat in France. Yeah, that would that I could definitely see that being a bit of a challenge. But now I feel like I have to try that out now.
I now have made a challenge for you.
Work remote from every Disney resort. It's I have to do it for science to test the Wi-Fi.
Yeah.
We have to know.
And you have mentioned that there's been another person in the room with you when you've gone a few times. So my husband and I have just been away and we have literally been sitting next to each other working for the past week. And I thought it would be super distracting. And sometimes it is because we both talk to ourselves. so,
Mhm.
so I'm like, what? And he's like, I didn't say anything. And I'm like, yes, you did. And then I'll do it. But is that
Mhm.
distracting at all for you?
Yeah, it can sometimes be. Thankfully, um, my roommate or like my housemate also works from home, so like we do hear each other, so I'm used to hearing someone else. But that's also where the background music comes in handy, even if it's just kind of like ambient music or something like that. The most difficult is if you are trying to juggle a conference call at the same time, just because you kind of have to strategically place yourselves in the room or um, like do some sort of signal, like raise your hand off screen to be like, I'm going off mute or something like that. Or if you're fortunate and have a balcony or another room that you can go in, that's helpful too.
Yeah. Like, I don't know. If you and I were in the same room, I don't think I could focus because I'd be like, I just would not be able to stop talking to you. So,
No.
like my husband, I could talk to him anytime. So I think that that makes a big difference too.
Mhm.
So, okay.
Definitely.
And then I have a super weird question for you.
Yes, what is it?
Do you have like an extended monitor for when you work, or do you just use your one monitor?
Okay. So, I've been thinking about getting some sort of travel monitor that I can bring with me because I do a lot of reporting and a lot of like PowerPoint stuff that I like at home. I have a monitor off to my left that I use, but there's no way I can travel with that. Do you? Do you have a travel monitor?
I don't know if it's because I keep talking about it, but I keep getting the ads of the one that you put on and you get the two. And I'm like, okay, but if I get the two for traveling, then when I'm at home, I'm gonna need a third monitor, right? So I'm like, this is a slippery slope. But we tried this past time, I tried to just go away with my laptop. And this is the first time where I was like, oh my gosh, like I need another monitor. Anytime my husband was not working, I took his monitor and I plugged it in and I was using it because I can't believe how much I use. I don't realize how much I use it, but well, I'm not a very good example. I'm a tab person. So I have my 12 tabs open on one screen and I have my other 10 on the other. And I'm like going vice versa
Back and
on them
forth.
all the
Yeah.
time. If you're not a tab person like me, it might not be a big deal, but
I'm not, but I with my work I do just like I have a lot of like Word docs and Excel and PowerPoint open at the same time. I'm very fortunate that my work laptop is like 15 or 16 inch screen, so it's a giant computer, so I can like do the split screen sometimes. But I want to get a travel monitor. Does your husband have one then that he travels with?
no, he does some weird thing. Like I had to start doing it too. I did stuff on I had stuff open on my phone and then on the computer and I was like doing it that way, but that's how he's been doing it too. But yeah, we've talked about it that especially like those because you just like place it like it doesn't look like there's that many cords to it. But
Yeah.
yeah, I think it's who would have ever thought I needed more screens?
I know. It's so silly, but like it, It would be really helpful because I have a really good setup for when I travel. So I have my laptop and um I have a standing, it's a collapsible standing desk. It's not like Sarah's fancy one that rises up and down and has a treadmill and everything. It's almost just looks like a notebook that like folds up to literally the size of a notebook. Um, and so I travel with that and like my notepad and a mouse if I need the mouse. And I that's a good system, but I definitely feel like I could use the travel monitor.
Yeah. So stay tuned. That might
Okay.
be our next thing.
Yes.
Yes. Okay. Any last thoughts about traveling with working that you want to leave anyone with?
Um, if you have the opportunity to work remote and travel and do something, do it. Try it out. I was a little hesitant at first, but now that I've done it, I think it's great. My work really doesn't care where I'm working from as long as it's in the US and I'm getting my work done. And so try it out and see if you like it if you can. And definitely Disney is a great place to start.
Yes. Very good. All right.
Definitely.
Thank you so much, Meredith. Your
Yeah.
information is all below. So if you'd like to reach out to Meredith, you can. She can help you out. And we will see you next time on Magical Travel Adventure. Bye.
Bye.